Guinea-nomics, when a guinea pig talks to you about economics.
And the math that goes with it. Hi there, I'm a guinea pig, and I made some graphs to show you how people decide whether they want to trade something in exchange for money, which most people call buying or selling, depending on which direction the money is going. Buying and selling things is just trading money for goods and services, so we can analyze it like any other mutually beneficial trade, except that, well, we have to figure out how much utility we get from money in order to know how that compares to the amount of utility we might get from the thing we would be trading it for. And for that, we need to talk about use value versus trade value. Remember that utility is about how useful or satisfying something is. So it is natural to call the utility we get directly from an object or experience its use value. That is the value we receive from having or using the real good or service itself. The use value is what I have been showing you on these graphs that show the amount of utility Rosie gets from various things. And I have a tiny confession to make. I may have, or definitely did, lie to you about how much utility Rosie gets from pickles. In a previous video, one of the graphs showed Rosie receiving 1 util from a pickle slice, because it made the example look better to show her getting some utility from what she was trading. Oftentimes, people do have some use value for what they are trading. It's just that they get a higher use value from the thing they will receive as a result of the trade. But in reality, Rosie gets no use value from pickles. She hates them. She will not eat them under any circumstance. They are literally of no use to her. She might as well throw them in the trash, which she frequently does if her friend Philip is not around. But when Philip is around, she doesn't throw them in the trash. She trades them for Philip's tomatoes. So even though Rosie will never get any utility from actually eating the pickle herself, she can get utility by trading it. Even though pickles have no use value for Rosie, they can still have a trade value. And the trade value of Rosie's pickle is whatever she can trade it for. When Philip's around, her trade value for the pickle is 4 utils, because that is how much utility she gets from the tomato slice Philip gives her in exchange for it. The pickle can bring her, or we might even say buy her, 4 utils worth of well-being. Now, let's say Rosie has another friend, Hannah, who would never give up a tomato slice for a pickle, but will happily trade a leaf of lettuce. When Rosie's having lunch with Hannah, the trade value of her pickle is 8 utils, which is the amount Rosie gets from the lettuce she receives in exchange for the pickle. In this situation, the pickle can bring her 8 utils worth of well-being. That's twice as much as when she was having lunch with Philip. It's not that the pickle slice is any different on the days she has lunch with Hannah. It's whatever the restaurant usually puts in there. But its trade value is different because Rosie now has a different trading partner who has different preferences. And if there's a big working lunch with everybody there, including Gracie, who offers up her lettuce and tomato for the pickle slice, well, that pickle's trade value just shot up. You'll notice that the trade value Rosie gets from her pickle slice has nothing to do with Rosie's preferences. It is 100% determined by other people's preferences. It is determined by the trading opportunities that are available to her. And when she has more than one offer, she will take the best one. That best offer becomes the trade value she gets from the pickle. We can think about a trade value as how much utility the pickle is able to bring her, or even say buy her. People can easily determine what their use value is for something, because they are the ones deciding for themselves how much utility something has. A use value is someone's own determination of how much utility something has for them. They don't need any input from anybody else. But when it comes to a trade value, the only way to know how much trade value something has is by observing what other people are willing to trade for it. Now, people usually don't buy things with pickle slices, but like the carrots in Rosie's video about the 3 functions of money, if enough people start trading enough pickle slices, they could become money, or money-ish. They would be terrible at it. They don't keep very well, and they are damp. We would rather use currency instead, and Rosie will explain more about why in her next video about the characteristics of money. So let's say that instead of a pickle slice, Rosie has a leftover peso from her trip to Nuevo Laredo. She has no plans on going back to Mexico, so there's no real reason to keep it. And in this example, although it is currency, it's not the local currency, so she can't use it at any of the local stores. Rosie doesn't really have a use value for it, and it doesn't seem to have a trade value either. But when she mentions this at lunch, both Philip and Hannah are interested in getting her peso, because they are both coin collectors. Philip offers to trade Rosie his tomato slice for the peso. Hannah offers to trade her lettuce leaf for the peso. So this peso does have a trade value, because Rosie has found other people who want it. And its trade value for Rosie is 8 utils, in the form of Hannah's lettuce, because that is the best offer Rosie could get for it. If Gracie shows up and she wants the peso because she's planning a trip to Juarez and she offers up her lettuce and tomato for it, then the peso's trade value for Rosie becomes 12 utils. Not because the peso changed in any way, but because a new trading opportunity appeared. Rosie will take the best offer available to her, and that best offer is the trade value. Again, the trade value is about what other people want, and it doesn't matter if we're using a pickle slice at lunchtime, a peso in Minneapolis, or a dollar in New York City. It is the eagerness of people to obtain what you have that gives it trade value, not whether it's legal tender. So the decision to buy or sell something, to trade real things for money in either direction, comes down to what else could this money buy instead? Or what is the actual trade value of my money in terms of how much utility I would get from other real goods or services I could trade it for? Money facilitates transactions by being a medium of exchange and a measure of value, and it stores value so that we can complete transactions across time. Money holds utility. Money can be converted to utility. And money and utility are closely related, but they are not the same thing, and they work very differently mathematically. Understanding the mathematical differences between utility and money is key to an accurate understanding of market economics. The conflation of money with utility leads to some of the worst misreadings of how markets actually function. So let's don't do that. In my next video, we'll talk about the mathematical differences between graphing with money versus graphing with utility, and how diminishing marginal utility comes back into the picture, because we all live at the margin, which means we're always trading the marginal pickle for the marginal tomato slice, or the marginal dollar. They spend differently depending on how many of them you have. Let's meet back here to get right into the math of money. It's going to be so exciting. I just wish it didn't take me so long to make these graphs. I have so many things I want to show everybody. My little paws are not made for keyboards. Why doesn't anyone make a touchscreen that works for guinea pig paws? Probably the lack of purchasing power on the part of rodents. The world can be so